Hey everyone, Pixelmer here, and today I'm going to be talking about magic in Redwall, Part 1. So, magic isn't something that appears very often in the Redwall series. It's a very small part of it, and so because of that, I thought I'd give an in-depth analysis of the different magic things in Redwall. And I'm splitting it into 3 parts, since otherwise it would be a bit long. And for the first part, I'm going to be talking about Seers. And they don't appear that often in the series, at least not ones that are actually called that in the book. Sometimes you have characters who could be considered Seers, but aren't really called that, so I'm not counting those. And some of them are frauds, some of them are real, but what matters is what they're called by most of the characters. So, let's get into it. So in Lord Brocktree, there are no Seers at all. And then in the second book in chronological order, we have the first one, and that's Polikin the Mole. Polikin is mainly remembered for predicting Rose's death, and also for predicting the hardships that Martin would go through. She really was probably the most well-known one in the series, at least, or maybe just the most well-liked, I guess. She's a really awesome character overall, I thought, and her predictions weren't so obvious that they made it too predictable, because she never specifically said that Rose was going to die until after it happened, and I'm not even sure if she did it then. And that was really interesting because it was a cool bit of foreshadowing, and honestly, she's probably my favorite of the Seers in the series. Mossflower and The Legend of Luke don't have any Seers either, just like Lord Brocktree. And then came Nightshade in Outcast of Redwall. Nightshade is kind of hard to tell whether she was real or a fraud, because she never, as far as I can remember, she never made any actual predictions. She rather just was called a Seer, but never really did anything with that. She was more of a healer in the end, and, well, there's nothing unusual about that. So it's really hard to say whether she was real or not. I'm guessing probably not, but we can't say for sure. Then, for the next 4 books, Mariel of Redwall, The Bellmaker, Salamandastron, and Redwall, there are no characters who are Seers. Then, we have Matamea, where we see Mangiz the Crow. Mangiz was the Seer of General Ironbeak, and we can be pretty sure that he was actually a legitimate one, for one simple reason. His dreams were blocked by Martin the warrior holding a sword. So we know that he actually relied on his dreams to tell visions. Of course, we also saw that he was willing to lie about what he saw in order to please General Ironbeak, and so I guess in that sense he wasn't a complete legitimate one, because he didn't always tell the truth about it, but he always saw it, and until they came to Redwall Abbey, which is where the story starts, so we never actually get to see him make any actual predictions. So he's almost definitely a real one. It's just we don't get to see that in action. After that, in the Pearls of Lutra, there's none. In the Long Patrol, the closest thing we have to a Seer there is Midge Manycoats, when he and Tamo disguise themselves and go into the Vermin Horde. They act as Seers, so they're kind of like fake Seers, I guess. You could count them, but I don't think they would count, because that was just a temporary disguise. And in Marlfox there's no one either, but then unusually enough, Tagarung has 2 Seers in it. The first one is Grisul. Grisul, I think that's how you say her name. She knew that, and she actually, there was something really interesting with this Seer. Basically, if you remember, Antigra was actually the one who killed the clan leader, Jessica Wrath. And so she was actually the one who became the true Tagarung, since Dana was no longer a Tagarung and was banished from the tribe, right? So then when she she was actually able to see that Ruggenbor, I think was his name, the leader who took over the Juskarath, she told him that he was the Tagaron, because she knew that he had killed Antigra, and she was the Tagaron. A really interesting little detail that I didn't notice when first reading it, but I saw that on the Redwall wiki when doing research for this video. And we can be pretty sure that she was real. She saw actual visions, but she was also willing to lie about her visions, which is a pretty common theme for the Seers in the series. Yeah, she basically always said what she thought would be best for the tribe and herself. So, in some ways, she was actually pretty responsible with her abilities compared to some of the others. And then there was Ermath, who is Ruggenbor's personal seer, and very little is known about her, so we have no idea whether she was real or a fraud. All we know is that she was considered to be a seer, and that's it. And then after Tegrung, we had Triss, which had no one. Then we had Lomehedge, which actually also had two. First one being Lana Bowstripe, who was able to predict a couple things, and it was said that his archery abilities were due to his seeing abilities, which is kind of an unusual correlation. I don't quite see how Brian Jakes reached that conclusion there, but I guess I can kind of see it, how he can see where he needs to shoot maybe or something like that. I'm not sure exactly how that would work, but it's kind of interesting how apparently that was affected. And then there was Wurga. Wurga never made any predictions, and it didn't seem like she was able to either. I don't know, she seemed like she was always avoiding telling, like she never even considered telling fake ones, which is really interesting, making it hard to tell whether she's real or fake. I'd probably say fake, simply because I don't know why you would bring that up if you know you can't tell the truth about it. Like you wouldn't, then you'd have to lie to the leader. I forgot who the leader's name was, and yeah, somehow I just think she's leaning towards fake. And then Rackety Tam didn't have any seers. Hydro Lane had a seer called Old Zilla the Bard. He was an otter who saw everything while he was asleep, which is a bit different compared to some of the others in the series. And he was told by Martin the Warrior about the Hydro Lane returning. We can be pretty sure he was a legitimate one, and that this vision from Martin wasn't like a one-time type of thing, because otters are generally pretty honest, and all the other otters trusted him, so most likely he was legitimate. Then Eulalia, Doomoit, and the Sable Queen don't have anyone, and finally in the rogue crew was Shakra, who was definitely a real seer, but she made sure to lie about her visions a lot because she feared for her life, and she told her leader what he wanted to hear. Interesting how so many of the seers do that, because they are scared of what might happen if they say something that isn't what their leader wants to hear. Really kind of a weird cycle, how all the seers just they know when their boss or leader would be unhappy with something they say, and so they don't say it, yet the leaders still trust their seers, even though most of them know that their seer will only tell them what this leader wants to hear, and yet they still trust them. I don't know whether that's part of their stupidity or their ego or something else entirely, but I thought that was kind of odd how I think they should know that, and if they don't, then they're dumb. If they do know that, then I guess they just enjoy it. I don't know. Who knows why they do it. So yeah, as for the other two parts of this series, I'm going to be talking about magic from the Badgers and magic from Redwall Abbey afterwards, and then I'll see if there's any other thing to talk about, but I don't think there will be, so for now it's 3 parts, though that could change eventually. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe, you know, the usual stuff. And sorry that this video took so long. Hope you enjoy this anyways, and I'll see you guys next time.